Bien, on ne parle pas français qu'en France. Je viens donc de Genève. Merci à l'interprète qui est en cabine. Est-ce que la traduction a commencé?
Yes, it's there, it's running. Yes, you can hear. Can you hear the translation? Can you hear the translation into Russian and from Russian into English? Yes. So I'd like to very quickly introduce. I'm from Geneva, and I was the mayor of Geneva and head of the government. And I'm kind of an engaged European, and for many years I am the Council of Europe. And so allow me, before I address my subject, I would like to come out with some comments. And I cannot stop from commenting on Mr. Yakunin's presentation. So he pointed out very that the multifarious nature of civilization is a guarantee of success of local and global evolution. And in the epoch of great transformations, we need to remember some very important tenets and dogmas. I'd like to quote Rousseau. Before destroying the established rule, so we need to realize and to think about the traits and principles and approaches that would be replaced, that would replace what we are planning to destroy. So we need to be very careful about the future move before we make this move. And now just a few words about energy, and I would like to give some pragmatic answers. I would like to, very difficult to imagine the world where I can live in a very harmonious way and with no conflicts, with no hostilities, unless the demands of the majority of the people are met. But unfortunately, so this disparity continues to grow. And so with this growing disparity, and so the role of China and Brazil growing in importance, so huge continents like Africa, so which want certainly to join the leaders and want to move and develop as fast as China and Russia and other BRIC countries are doing. That's why we need to remember about this inevitable reality in order to be able to protect the climate and the environment and avoid the overheating of the planet. And so we need just to address the issue of energy. So Europe and the United States, starting from Euro conference in 1992, where I was, so the policy, so very fluctuating policy, changing policy, and it's not like Fukushima. So we have to remember, we cannot minimize. So this certainly it was flagrant violations, but that was the pinnacle of the irrational management of energy, and you see the results. And that's why certainly we want to be able to avoid similar occurrences in the future. And certainly at the same time we need to fight the CO2 waste increase, and so the greenhouse factor, which is gaining ground very rapidly. Certainly we cannot possibly impose restrictive measures because they result in different social and economic implications, because the large countries like BRIC, Brazil, Russia, China, so they cannot impose upon themselves, so where more than half of the population of globe lives, and so they have to address the issues of quotas and so reducing waste. Sometimes it goes counter to the natural desires and demands of their population, because so medical care, housing, food, mobility. So it's not something that it's not the sign of opulence, it's the necessity. And that is why so they need to use every sources of energy to be able to provide the population with the basics. And sometimes they're not thinking about the implications, but this is quite natural for a certain period of time. And that is why I was saying that there are new quarries and that there are new fossil fuel power stations. So we are scandalized at this, although so the CO2 emission is even less than gas powered stations, etc. And so we need certainly to develop new technologies, so which would be able just to restore the balance at a different level, at a new level. But we need to develop different areas but we need certain efficiency. Energy efficiency is the order of the day now. And so because it's easier to make adequate decisions in rich countries. So it's very easy to talk about efficient power stations, efficient ways of generating electricity, but sometimes the countries that are not the richest countries, so it's very difficult to materialize such requirements in very short period of time. So it doesn't happen overnight, and we need to be to understand. For example, Danton in China. Which actually the production of CO2 went down to zero, so this gas now is used for heating. The bad implications were turned into good possibilities of using CO2 for heating. So that's one of the examples. And so we need just to capture the wastes because the reserves of coal are huge in the world. But if you imagine, that was not be realistic just to stop producing coal. So even Germany becomes to understand that they cannot survive without nuclear energy, and so they bring it back because the new, unfortunately, dogmatism and empty wording is counterproductive, and we need to be very careful. We need to be efficient, but at the same time we cannot survive without energy because the modern civilization requires a lot of energy, and that is why. We're trying just to reduce wastes. But we cannot abandon the research of new technologies, of new, more efficient ways of generation that do not generate waste, chemical waste, SOx, NOx, CO2, and thus we can actually address the issue of nuclear wastes, and because it generates military risks and defense risks and other things. So what are the arguments, logical arguments that can be put into practice in order to counteract them, and so to be able just to evolve new types of production sources, and at the same time that would be a good answer to the greenhouse effect and to worsening of the situation. So that is why there are many threats, but we need certainly to leverage on the opportunities and look for the upsides. So the Nobel laureate in 1994, Karl Rube in Geneva, so he came out with a new technology, nuclear technology, that is based on the use of thorium. And thorium, ladies and gentlemen, has wonderful properties, and so that the nuclear energy would become possible because there are no wastes, because thorium has no wastes. And in the event of a nuclear accident, so the process of fission can be stopped immediately. Thorium cannot be used for military purposes, for defense purposes, so that's why certainly we cannot abandon the nuclear energy application if there is thorium, because thorium, we need to support science, research, R&D, and the use of thorium in accelerators, which would allow not to use plutonium. And thorium we have a lot of thorium, and thorium produces energy as efficiently as plutonium, but without its noxious consequences, toxic consequences. And so because it can be used in military purposes, plutonium, but thorium cannot. And so that's why we need to find a way to address the issue of nuclear issues related to the military application of weapons-grade plutonium and uranium, and that issue could be resolved with the help of this new technology and the European Center of Nuclear Studies and Research. And so it's this wonderful research was done recently, inspires hope, because, and this is the reason why I'd like to stress that these new technologies are here to stay and we can use them. And if we need just to innovate, we need to put all our force and strength, because the genius of man is unique, and we can address any issues if there is a will.